Welcome to our training on chlorine awareness. Chlorine has a variety of uses as a disinfectant and purifier, in plastics and polymers, in solvents, and in agrochemicals and pharmaceuticals. Chlorine is used worldwide to purify water supplies as the ultimate defense against waterborne microbiological infection. It is stored at power generation facilities as part of the water treatment process. Despite its many uses and benefits, there are some hazards associated with chlorine. You need to know about these hazards and how to protect yourself against them. That is the purpose of this course. This course is designed to give you a fundamental knowledge of chlorine. When you complete the course, you should be able to identify the physical properties of chlorine, recognize the health effects of chlorine exposure, recall how to safely store and handle chlorine, and know appropriate response and first aid measures for chlorine-related emergencies. Knowing the properties of a hazardous substance can help you to identify it in the event of a release. Let's see what you know about chlorine. Identify the properties of chlorine by clicking the correct answer from the options given. What color is chlorine gas? Is chlorine gas heavier than air? What does chlorine gas smell like? Chlorine has a very low odor threshold, which means that you are very likely to detect its presence because it is easy to smell. Once you can smell chlorine, you are already in danger. The low odor threshold indicates that the concentration that should never be exceeded and the concentrations that are immediately dangerous to life and health are all minuscule amounts, 10 parts per million or less. Your first priority will be to immediately follow emergency procedures in the event of chlorine release. This typically includes getting away from the smell by moving upwind from the source. Chlorine also exists in liquefied gas form. What color is liquefied chlorine? What is the temperature of liquefied chlorine? Chlorine is non-flammable. However, it reacts with water and all other incompatible materials. Chlorine reacts with water to form hydrochloric acid. This acid can cause biological damage to your body. For example, inhaling elevated levels of chlorine gas can irritate the throat and lungs because the chlorine reacts with the moisture in your body to create the acidic reaction. Moisture in the air combined with chlorine can lead to severe corrosion or failure of metal piping and containment systems. Chlorine is also a strong oxidizer. In other words, although it is not flammable, it promotes and supports combustion of other materials. The potential for serious fires can be limited by keeping chlorine, petroleum products, and other combustibles apart. All health effects associated with chlorine overexposure are acute. In other words, they occur very quickly after exposure. Chlorine gas is a severe health hazard and is corrosive to the respiratory system and mucous membranes. It may cause severe burns to the eyes and skin. It causes headaches, coughing, nausea, vomiting, and difficulty breathing, and may even lead to suffocation and death. Contact with liquefied chlorine gas causes frostbite. There are no known cumulative effects of exposure to chlorine. True or false? The health effects of chlorine may not occur until many years after exposure. Chlorine storage areas must be specifically built for chlorine storage. Safety features should include warnings and access control measures, exhaust vents near floors with exhaust directed away from inside areas, adequate ventilation, and a chlorine detector and alarm. Outside or detached storage is preferred. Keep chlorine storage areas free from incompatible materials such as acetylene, ammonia, hydrogen, and finely divided metals. There are specific requirements for safely handling chlorine. Exposure incidents can incapacitate, so 2 or more people should be present whenever chlorine is handled. You may know this practice as the buddy system. Keep all equipment free of moisture, as any moisture entering a chlorine system can cause extreme corrosion and containment failure. Never heat chlorine containers. Never eat, drink, smoke, or chew tobacco or gum in an area where chlorine is stored. And follow your company's personal protective equipment (PPE) requirements while making connections to or disconnections from cylinders, which should include wearing a full-face respirator with acid gas cartridges or a self-contained breathing apparatus along with chlorine-impervious gloves. Drag each action to the appropriate category. Do or don't. It is important that you know how to respond in the event of a leak or spill of chlorine at your facility. Should you detect a leak or spill, evacuate the area. Because chlorine gas is so hazardous if inhaled, move crosswind, then move upwind, even if the refuge area is downwind. Also, because chlorine is heavier than air, you should move up gradient too. Your facility should have considered high ground, low ground, and prevailing winds when setting emergency plans. Deviation from the plan can be deadly. Notify the control room and/or the emergency response team of the leak. Only trained personnel should respond. Unless you have been trained to do so, do not attempt a response to the leak yourself. True or false? Any employee is permitted to repair a chlorine leak. Select each exposure scenario to see the correct first aid responses. This concludes our chlorine awareness training. You should now be able to identify the physical properties of chlorine, recognize the health effects of chlorine exposure, recall how to safely store and handle chlorine, and know appropriate response and first aid measures for chlorine-related emergencies. Remembering and applying what you've learned today will help ensure that you remain safe when working with or around chlorine.